Hey guys, this is Sharad with REsimpli, host of the REsimpli podcast, bringing on a very special guest on the podcast today, Thomas DeMoss. Thomas, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Sharad. I appreciate you having me on here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for jumping on the podcast. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Where do you live? What kind of investing do you do?
Yeah, so we're based out of Chattanooga, Tennessee. Was a small town 20 years ago, but now with everybody moving to the Southeast, it has just boomed. So there's a lot of transition. There's a lot of people moving into our area, mostly from more expensive areas of the country, the coast, East Coast, West Coast, California. And so we moved here because we discovered it before they did. My wife grew up here, and we visited, loved it, loved the natural resources, just mountains, trails, outside's beautiful, and just been here for about 20 years now.
How far are you from Nashville?
About 2 hours.
2 hours. Okay.
Yeah, depending on
And
traffic.
how long you been there?
So we've been here, I think 20 years now. Actually, I was just looking at my timeline. It's just right at 20 years.
Perfect. And how long have you been an investor? And that's the only market that you invest in? You said
It
population is
is
20,000?
yeah. So we do our geographic area is probably about 60-mile radius of Chattanooga. So
Okay.
would encompass the Chattanooga metro area and then North Georgia. Um,
Okay.
we've expanded a little bit. I've got some properties that are in Lafayette, Georgia, which is a smaller town,
Okay.
but a lot of industry down there, and it's growing. So
Got
yeah,
it.
yeah.
And how long did you say you've been investing for?
We started investing actually the year we moved to Chattanooga. So right at 20 years, we bought our
Okay.
first house, and then we bought our first investment property shortly thereafter.
Got it. And then what are you wholesaling? Are you flipping or a little bit of everything?
So we've done a little bit of everything over the past 20 years. Kind of the short story is I got into real estate investing, and I think there is some ambiguity to that term these days. Anybody that says they're in real estate or maybe wholesaling calls themselves a real estate investor. And I would say that that's not necessarily true. An investment is something that you buy, you hold, you get a return. A stock would be get a dividend. We get rental income. But we actually did start what I would determine or call investing 20 years ago. We bought our first single family house. And then we've been doing it ever since. When we first got started, I was 100% buy and hold because it was all I could do. I was working as a sales associate for another company, and really we just started buying houses because Rich Dad Poor Dad was the book. Got us started, but really wanted to focus on the areas that we lived in that were probably about 5-mile radius of where our home base was, just so it's easy to manage. And that's how we started.
So you started basically inspiration to be a real estate investor was from Rich Dad Poor Dad. Is that correct?
It
Yeah.
was, and I've told the story before. When in college we rented a house, and we would always our landlords were these, older guys who just came picking up rent. Seemed like they didn't have a care in the world, and it just seemed like, okay, it seems like a lifestyle that might be attractive. And
Yeah.
then growing up, my dad had taught me about investing, more stock market investing, but essentially the concept of money and investing and time value, things like that. So there was a lot of influences, but real estate was something that I wanted to get into.
And when did the transition from investing rental properties to being more actively involved and doing it full time happen for you?
So that happened about, I'd say, 9 years ago.
Okay.
We started Chattanooga Property Solutions as our company. Up until then, we had just been buying kind of single family rentals, and that's what we specialize in. But we got to a point to where I could replace my wife's income. We started having children. She decided to stay at home. Everything just kind of worked. And then we got to a point to where I saw the market in Chattanooga transitioning. We decided to take advantage of it. I had a buddy of mine that had flipped houses. And when I say flipped, actually just renovated to sell. Most of the renovations that I have done have just been on rental properties, so buy and hold. So selling properties was something that had to get accustomed to. I really I love the game Monopoly, so I want to hold on to as many pieces as I can. So we started to do that. That was about, like I said, 9 years ago. We started doing some direct to seller marketing, just gradually really just getting into that side of the business. It was very easy back then. I think at the time we started, I was the only one that had uh, I guess a home buying website for our area.
Wow.
So it was easy. And then that just progressed into the many different facets of our industry.
So what are you doing now? You still focus primarily on residential properties, single family?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, we're trying to just accumulate a good portfolio of single family investment properties. I'm not going to turn. I've got one duplex. It's in a killer area. We just evaluate the opportunities deal by deal, and if something makes sense, we're going to take it down.
Right. And then, so market, you said the market has changed significantly. I'm sure since COVID started, like you've seen a
Yeah.
huge impact in your market. How are you adjusting for that? I'm curious with like, I'm sure the prices have gone up, like demand supply is always a challenge. How do you manage that?
Yeah, COVID's is kind of rocked things. Everybody said, the new normal. The new normal is just there's always something that transitions almost
Right.
every 3 to 6 months. So what we saw prior to that is there was some consistency in the market. You could make a little bit of mistakes, but right now you've really got to be proactive with what you're doing. You mentioned how far are we from Nashville. A good kind of anecdotal story would be the Nashville market got saturated, I'd say maybe 5 to 7 years ago. So because of our proximity to that city, all of the investors in Nashville decided they couldn't make the returns there. So they saw the growth and the transition that Chattanooga was having, which was very similar to what they had. So they almost had an advantage because they could kind of see it in the rearview mirror. They could say, okay, we saw what Nashville did. It took, 10, 15 years. We see what is happening in Chattanooga. So we pretty much know how this is going to shape out. So the competition that we saw early on was from a lot of folks coming from outside of our market, and specifically folks from Nashville.
Okay. And then what has that done to, like, I'm sure the prices have gone up. There's a lot
Yeah.
more competition. What are you noticing that's working for you? And where do you see the market going, like, from here?
So, like I said, probably the last 18 months, we have seen a transition. We run a very lean team. There's three of us, and we have historically done about 40 transactions a year. I had a business partner a few years ago. We were kind of heavier on flipping, but because of I guess the risk, the low or no risk in wholesaling and the wholesale fees that we were able to attain, we have ultimately transitioned into, as far as our active income business, completely wholesaling and not flipping. But then again, we pick off the deals that make sense for us to hold in our portfolio.
Got it. And then the ones that you're wholesaling, are you doing assigning the contract? Are you double closing?
We are assigning the contracts. On occasion, we will double close, or wholesale is kind of what we call it. But my preference is if we can do an assignment of contract, that's what we prefer to do. Try to not entice more people to come to our market, but our profit margins and our wholesale fees, they have risen dramatically. And I think a lot of that is attributed just because there is a lower supply of inventory, both on the investment side and the retail side.
Got it.
We've seen that. I do have my real estate license, so I am, versed in kind of both worlds there.
Okay. And I'm just curious, when you're assigning a contract, is there a certain assignment fee, like beyond which you feel a little uncomfortable with your buyers and saying, oh my God, ooh, I don't know if I want
Yeah,
the buyer to know that I'm making like 50, 60, whatever the number might be.
that is a great question. And, I had to have that, I guess, moral dilemma early on. When we first started our business, we would not do assignments. There was actually a guy who had moved to our area, and we would just refer those out. And so he would do the assignments and pay us essentially an assignment referral fee. We did that for about a year because I really struggled with that concept. Is are we taking advantage of these folks? Are we doing the right thing? And what I came down to is, and what we share with the sellers that contact us is we're there to provide value to them that can be realized many different ways. It could be simplicity, it could be
Right.
certainty. I would say the folks that call us that are in a distressed situation, rarely is money the ultimate determiner
Yeah,
of their purpose.
I agree
And
with that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So we've made some fairly hefty assignment fees, and we're very transparent. I mean, you have to kind of be careful with using some of the language because it does confuse sellers. Um, but we are very transparent with how we do the process, by which we'll tell them, hey, this is a property that we can give you X amount for. It doesn't necessarily fit our buy box. So we will bring some other investors to the table to see if it might fit theirs. And we've been doing this now as far as a wholesaling business, I think for 7, 8 years. We really pride ourselves on taking care of the sellers and our clients, and we've never had anybody say anything about the money that we made, because the way that I understand it, to kind of explain it, is like, listen, Mr. Seller, we're a for-profit business, and we're very upfront with that. It says it on our contract. We don't hide away or shy away from the fact that we have to make money. We spend a
Right.
lot of money through our operations and marketing, so we're very transparent with that. And we just asked them, listen, if we make our money on day 1 or day 60 or day 90, does it matter to you? And most of them say, I don't care how much money you make, as long as you can give me the price that I need to, move on with my life.
Have you ever gotten any pushback from the seller? Like, I mean, there's one thing saying, but when they actually see the
Mm.
settlement statement and they see you guys making 20, 30, 40,000, like, oh, yeah, that,
We
you know,
have not. We
okay,
have
that's
not.
good.
We have not.
Yeah. That goes to show like the communication that you're having upfront,
Yeah.
setting the expectations.
Hmm.
There's way too many wholesalers out there. And by the way, I agree with you that real estate investor versus real estate wholesaler. I always
Yeah.
joke that I think real estate investor is like the only profession, if you want to call it, where you can literally just get a business card printed, go around and
Yes.
start calling yourself real estate investor. There's
Yes.
no credential, nothing that you need, like real estate
Yeah.
agent, or if you're a contractor, you need some sort of education, but real estate
Hmm.
investor. My parents could come visit me from India and saying, hey, I'm also a real estate investor. And I have no way to like say you're not. But anyway, yeah,
Yeah.
there's like way too many wholesalers out there who are not transparent about the
Right.
entire process. And I think it leaves a very bad taste in sellers' mouth in trusting other investors like yourself who are credible.
Yeah.
I think that becomes a very uphill battle.
So one of the ways that we've overcome that is we're very, I guess, active about getting reviews. We want people to tell the story, their experience with us. And for the most part, people love it. They love telling the
Right.
story because we have offered such a value to their life. And unfortunately, as long as we've been doing this, you're right. We've come in not as the first offer, but as the second offer sometimes, from folks that couldn't execute the contract. And I'll say this, we don't enter into contracts that we can't execute on if we can't assign them. So
Got it.
there are some deals that we just can't close, but our contract canceling of contract ratio is minuscule. The market is changing, so sometimes we will get a little bit more aggressive, if you will, on the purchase price. But when we tell people we're going to do something, 9 times out of 10, we're going to do it. And the only time we're really, especially recently, the times that we haven't been able to execute on the closing had nothing to do with what we agreed to. There was title issues, it was
Right.
probate, there was heirship things. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
I can count, I literally can count on my hand how many contracts we've broken,
Wow.
over the past,
That's amazing. That
seven,
that
nine
goes
years.
to it goes to
Um,
show like you're guys are running such a legit,
Hmm.
ethical business. Yeah, I mean, it's going to happen. Part of the nature
Right.
of the business is like the title issues. We had a contract like a couple of months ago where the husband signed it and the house was deeded to wife. He's like, oh, but I was married to
Yeah.
her. Can I not sell the house? I'm like, no, that's
Yeah.
not how it works. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it's such a fun business at times that you hear these crazy
Yeah.
stories. But just going back to like that's something like kind of what you were saying that initially you had this struggle of like you question, am I taking advantage of the people,
Hmm.
making this money? I used to struggle with that also, but I came to the same realization that as investors, we're adding so much value and we're looking it through the
Yes.
lens of money, but the seller is not. Like we just
Right.
got a property under contract for I think 25, 30, 35,000. The guy's going through a foreclosure. He reached out to
Yeah.
us through our website, and then we got it under contract. The house is with about 150 to 175. It needs about
Hmm.
25, 30. But that guy, he has a very tight deadline to meet
Hmm.
in like a couple of weeks that he needs to sell the house.
Yes.
I think that's the realization that we need to come to as investors. Like that's the value add we're doing. Not everyone
Yep.
is looking it through the lens of money. Yes, of course, we're going to
Right.
help someone out and get them the most money we can and still be able to make profit. But
Yep.
money is something might be important for us, but for the seller, it's like something totally different. Like they just want to like it's way more important for them to just get rid of this house and then move
Yes.
on and do other things in life. So yeah, that's
Yep.
super, super important. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then with what you are doing right now, I mean, this is like super high interest rate market right
Yeah.
now. Like we're at like 7% or something
Hmm.
crazy. I'm working on a loan for a commercial property or a multi-family property, and it's like
Hmm.
over 8%.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you see? Like, first of all, what's like working for you right now in your market? Like right now, what are you doing? We're in the age where like some states are coming heavy, like banning wholesaling,
Yeah.
basically, like assignment of contract, so that's changing certain things. And then we're living in this environment where texting is getting more regulated, like cold calling is getting more difficult.
Yeah.
So like, how are you dealing with all of this and what's working for you guys?
So we've done a little bit of everything. When we first got started, we kind of did the traditional route. We were really heavy in direct mail. We embraced cold texting for a season. And then I think it's probably about 2 years ago now, we were looking at our operations cost and return, and just, what were we getting from all that spend? And you could see on the horizon things were changing, like you had mentioned before. I mean, mail's getting more expensive. I mean, they keep
Right.
increasing the cost of postage. So at some point, that's not going to be, you got to mail a lot to get a return. So the first thing that we did, we transitioned to all inbound marketing. So what that means is we started running television ads. We had always been really heavy with PPC. That was our main lead source was pay per click. Like I said, when we first got started, we were one of the few that had a website. So we had a little bit of the SEO already, but we've embraced that path as well. So pay-per-click, SEO, TV, radio, mostly the inbound stuff. We're trying to create a relationship with sellers before we even meet them. And if you've been on social media, this happened to me this week. I actually met another real estate investor. I'd followed him on social media, so I knew about him, and we met each other. We knew who each other were. We already had a relationship. And so we see similarities in that with that inbound marketing, with being able to tell our story. A 30 to 60-second commercial can build relational interest with sellers, and it just helps. And so that's what we transitioned to.
Yeah. And I think moving forward in another like year or two, as texting is getting more regulated, right?
Yeah.
Cold calling is again getting more regulated. I think it's going to give a huge advantage to investors who have funds to invest in inbound
Yes.
marketing, like your
Yes.
PPC, SEO, or TV, radio. I think
Yeah.
that's going to be the future as, like you
Yeah.
said, direct mail is getting more expensive, right?
Yes.
It's not that if the direct mail is getting more expensive, you can cut down on the number of people you need to mail to. You still need to
Mm-hmm.
mail to the same number of people, but as
Right.
more people drop out, now you have a little less competition. Instead of a seller receiving 15 mail pieces, like the seller might only get 7 or 8. So you have like half the
Yep.
competition now. And then with texting, like I've personally noticed on my cell phone, I used to get so many cold texts. I don't know if
Yes.
you've
Yes.
noticed that, which is, it's such a huge relief to be on the other side. As
Right.
an investor, I feel like we were part of the problem. We like flooded the market with these like tech.
Yeah.
I was never in favor of it. Like I tried it for like you, I tried it for maybe like 6 months. I felt very icky about it. I'm like,
Yeah.
it's just, it
Me too.
doesn't feel right. Yeah.
It didn't. You were, we had a few people that would respond to it, and there's folks that have done really well with it, and that's great. It just wasn't the business model that
Yeah.
we wanted to embrace.
Yeah, I think
Um,
it's just it goes into your reputation, right? I mean, it's that the kind of
yeah.
reputation you want to have, like spamming people and doing those sort of
Yes.
things.
No. No. I'll say this before we even started running television ads. I had he's a friend now, but an ad salesman for one of our NBC channels. He called me up just because he knew what we were doing. He said, "Thomas, you need to come in and do this interview show. Um, it's a local interview show, and you can pay to be on it. They also have, local spots and whatever." But we did that, and we posted it on our Facebook, Instagram, everywhere, posted it on our website. And that was, it cost us like $450, but it was about a 5 to 7 minute interview. And what we found was that relationship capital that, we didn't even
Yeah,
know was out there. We were building with people because they would say, "Well, we saw you on what was it was 3 Plus You. We saw you on 3 Plus You." And we're like, "We filmed that a year ago."
yeah,
But we put it on all of our social media, and everybody kept watching it thinking it was
yeah.
like this month. And so that really helped tell our story. And the other thing was, it was kind of that third party credibility. So we were being interviewed, um, and we were just telling our story. It wasn't like we were pitching anything. But it really, really helped, especially as far as credibility and online searches. We would have people that would fill out our web forms, and they'd see that video. And especially when the market got more competitive, they're comparing us with another, click person,
Right.
and they can see that, and it really, really helped. So
Oh
that's where
yeah.
we started
Absolutely.
doing the TV.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the like investing in credibility, like this is something we're like it's a company are being very proactive. I mean, we're a very virtual company. I live in California. My
Right.
project manager lives in California, an hour north of me, and then a one person Philippines. But we're being very like proactive about, hey, we're helping these homeowners, get out of
Mm-hmm.
a trouble, a distressed situation. Let's make sure we hire a videographer, go and ask these people.
Yeah.
They're more than happy to talk about it. It's
Yes.
just such a simple
Yes.
thing. The more of that you have, the more credibility it builds for you.
Yep.
Not only does it help with your ranking and all that good stuff, but just imagine a seller going to your website,
Mm-hmm.
which has tons of testimonial from other sellers in similar
Yep.
situation versus going to another website that just talks about, just generic value add, but it doesn't
Right.
have any testimonial. Like immediately, the one with testimonials and reviews from other homeowners, it's going to have
Yes.
such a huge advantage over the one that does
Yes.
not.
I'll give you just an example. I had a lady that I'd been working with for about a year. She had called me, and we were working, and really the timing wasn't right for her, but at this moment it was right. And she had another investor that had made her an offer, and it was a few $1,000s higher than ours. And I said, here's what I want you to do. I want you to check out our websites. I want you to go to his, I want you to go to ours, and you tell me what makes you more comfortable. And for her, it was the reality that we had a Better Business Bureau rating,
Yeah.
A+ rating. And that changed her mind. She literally said on the phone, "Okay, I see you're Better Business rated. I feel more comfortable with that." So we got the deal over the other company.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like
Mm-hmm.
investing in those small things in your business, being consistent
Yep.
and asking for that feedback. It goes such a long
Right.
way. And this
Right.
is the one where you actually had a conversation where you made someone. Like there's going to be so many homeowners, sellers that go compare your
Yeah.
website with another without even like having that, a conversation with you.
Right.
Just going to default gravitate towards you guys because you have
Mm-hmm.
all of these, amazing testimonials.
Yeah.
I have a question for you. So you're in like a market and you're like 60-mile radius from
Mhm.
Chattanooga market. Are you guys going on appointments, doing virtual? What are your thoughts on that?
We're 100% real. I mean, we go in the living rooms. I don't feel comfortable doing virtual stuff. We don't even wholesale our stuff virtual. We want people to go see what they're getting.
Right.
So yeah, ours is belly to belly sales. I've got an incredible acquisition manager. We are in alignment with what we are trying to accomplish. We want to make sure that our clients and sellers are treated fairly and respectfully before anything. And I mean, it's funny you talk about reviews. We actually have a review from a gentleman that we essentially told him not to sell his house, but we walked him through the process. We educated him on his options, and his best option was to stay in the house. So he left us a review telling us how great we were, being honest with him.
Right.
And that's something that we do pride ourselves on.
Yeah. And no, I also like this is something I've also struggled with and I feel very uncomfortable with also buying virtual. Like even though my team is all remote, we still send a contractor to do a walkthrough
Yes.
and we have a local
Yes.
person sometimes if someone wants to meet and have a property
Yeah.
management company just to, build on that here we're a local company. But
Right.
it's I think if you're in local in your market, it's my personal opinion and belief on this is if someone is selling their home, which is probably, the most expensive asset they have, there's so many
Hmm.
emotional value attached to it. If you're able to go on an appointment in person, meet the person, walk them through the process versus someone who's making an offer over the phone or
Yeah.
communicating through text or email, I think by default you will have an advantage if you're able
Right.
to do this in person versus
Yeah.
do that over the phone. I'm
I
sure you've
agree.
run into the situations where, you have a seller looking at your offer and you're able to meet them in person versus someone who's out of state in a different market but making an
Hmm.
offer on this property. I think it just immediately gives you an advantage
Yeah.
over the other investor. Yeah.
Yeah, it does. And like I said, going back to the marketing thing, they saw our ad, they've seen us
Yeah.
on social media. So they know us and we're not shy. I mean, one of the things that I would encourage more investors to do is on your website, do an about us page. Don't just do the carrot template or
You're
the
right.
REsimpli template. Just tell
Oh,
people
that is
about
so, so
you.
important. Yes. Like
Um,
personalize your picture. I mean, you get these website out of the gate, they look great, but you have to personalize them,
yes,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely. Very
And
simple.
then how long have your acquisition manager been with you?
So I think he's been with us 3 years now. We knew each other before. He worked for a competitor. They did some restructuring. Obviously when the market changed a few years ago, everybody was kind of shuffling, and we were friends before that. He knew who we were. I knew who he was, and when I knew that he was available, we reached out and connected, and
Right.
it's been a great partnership.
And since he's local in your market, this is something I've heard from many, many investors. I'm sure you've seen other investors out. Acquisition manager is one of the roles. It seems like it's a revolving door. Acquisition managers come in like for you to have someone for 3 years, that's
Yeah.
that's very rare in this industry
Hmm.
because what happens is either they jump on another opportunity or they end up actually competing with you on your market. And
Right.
how do you prevent that from happening? Like, is there something you're doing?
Sherrod, that's a great question. You should probably ask him. We do
Is
things a
that
little.
something that's ever like crossed your mind? I'm just
Yeah, oh, it
curious.
does. I
Yeah,
told him the other day. I said, if you decide to go somewhere else, I'm just going to close the doors,
yeah,
because I've got him, and then I've got my general contractor. They're so valuable to what we do,
right,
and to me personally. And I'm like, so I don't know. We do a little bit differently. He's also a buy and hold guy as well. So there will be deals that come through our pipeline that don't make sense for me. He loves the creative stuff, and like if he can write something up and it makes sense for him, and we can, we're all kind of accomplishing the financial goals that we want to do. I'll say, dude, take it. Like it's
right.
yours. Um, we're able to do that. I know a lot of organizations aren't, but we can. So we
So,
just maintain that flexibility.
so if I understand correctly, if it's a lead that does not work for the
Mhm.
business, and then he's like, "Hey, can I take this? I can do something creative." And like, yeah, I don't want to even deal with that. And like, just go for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
He makes some stuff complicated. I'm very simplistic.
Yeah.
And we're at I guess a point in life to where I can be selective in what we take
Right.
down. And so if something comes through and it kind of fits, he's trying to build his portfolio as well. And sometimes it
Mm.
just fits where he's at. He's more comfortable with it. Now we'll do traditional stuff as well, but yeah, it's just trying to, you know, we're all trying to get to similar spots.
Right.
And, and I think just adding that value, I recognize the value that he brings, and I definitely want to make sure that they understand and appreciate that, or that it's
Right.
appreciated.
Yeah. Do you charge him any, like if he takes a lead, any
No,
edge, do you charge? Okay. Yeah. I was just curious. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I mean,
no,
it kind of makes sense. Like, like I guess that's, he can see that as part of his compensation in a way,
correct,
where he didn't have to
correct.
pay for the lead, he didn't have to do the marketing.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that makes sense. Thomas,
And
this
it
has been
works.
absolutely, what was that?
I said it works for right now,
Yeah,
so
I mean
we're just
it
going to
works
keep going.
absolutely. No, I mean it's very rare, like in this business, for someone in an acquisition role to stay with the company for
Yeah,
more than a year or two. Honestly, it's very rare,
yeah,
just the nature of the business. Generally, someone in an acquisition role, they tend to be have an entrepreneurial mindset. So they
hmm,
will come in. I mean, it's happened to me where I hired someone local in Indiana. They were with
yeah,
me for about a year or 2 years. They actually ended up starting their own business, taking my contractors, and it's just like, and it's not me,
yeah,
something that happened to me. It's the nature of the business. Like it happens to so
yeah.
many people that once you understand, especially back in the day where you could just, go like, sign up for a texting software, get a list and
Right,
start texting. It was just
right.
like so easy to
It,
do that.
it is, and I think one of the barriers to enter now is, you probably heard this. It doesn't cost any money to be a real estate investor. That's kind of
Yeah.
the terminology. Well, it really does. Driving for dollars costs money. Everything costs
Yeah.
money or time, and the deal flow right now is a little bit less than what it used to be. But we're investing a lot of money into our marketing, and it works. I mean, my acquisition manager's in my television commercial with me, so
Oh, I see.
he's
Oh,
he's the one in the living room. So we want to make sure that
that makes
relationship
sense.
capital is there already. So it
Absolutely.
works really, really well.
That makes sense. Yeah. No, Thomas, this has been absolutely incredible. Thank you so much for
Yeah,
sharing your journey. I have
yeah,
a couple of other questions. Next part of our segment.
yeah.
What do you do for fun?
I got 3 kids, so I'm spending as
How old
much
are
time
they?
as I can. So my daughter is 17, and I've got 2 boys, 15 and 14.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I have my daughter
Yeah.
who just turned 4, and my son's going to
Oh,
be 8 in November. Such a
yeah.
fun
So
age. Yeah.
we spend a lot of time together, which is why I wanted to get into this. We're at the,
Yeah.
we could probably do more financially, but my time is the most valuable that I
Oh,
have right
absolutely.
now. And
Yeah.
so we spend a lot of time with kids. We do travel, we go on vacations, but
Nice.
it is really right now just spending as much time with our kids as we can,
Yeah.
just whatever that may be.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you talk to people who are a little bit like ahead of you in life, they're like 60, 70, when you ask them,
Hmm.
nobody ever says, I wish I'd made more money. They'll say, I wish I'd
Yeah,
spent more time with family. I
yeah,
wish I'd like invested more in relationships. So you're doing
absolutely.
it. Yeah, you're doing
Yeah.
it the right way. And what's the one book that's had the biggest impact in your life? It could be personal book, business book, or one of each.
Yeah, so I'll take a little different path. I mean, I've got a faith background. I'm a Christian, so we read the Bible, and I think that's really important, like
Yeah.
prioritizing that. But then there's a book,
Bible is the number one answer on the
yeah, yeah,
podcast.
I
So
know, I
yeah.
know. And it's funny, a lot of people would say that, but don't necessarily read it. I became a Christian shortly after we moved back to Chattanooga, so that's kind of an integral part of my story. So it's that is, but as far as like a practical application in real estate, the thing that's made the biggest difference in my life, honestly, in the past 2 years, I've got it on my desk here. Dan Nicholson wrote a book called Rigging the Game.
Okay, rigging the
Um,
game. Hmm.
yeah, and
All right.
so it basically, in our business, there's always this push to one up everybody. There's the
Yeah.
competitiveness, there's the drive, and I had it. And Dan, never met him, but I'd love to. But he wrote a book that it's basically how to achieve financial certainty and navigate risk and make money on your terms. And
Yeah.
I think the key there is your terms. I mean, if somebody calls me up and says, "Hey, I've got 100 rental properties," a couple of years ago, I'd be like, "Well, I want 101.
Yeah.
I just want that. I don't need 100 rental properties to obtain the financial position that we want to be in." And so that's the thing. It helped me understand it's okay to not want to be like everybody else. Everybody wants to leverage and grow and do this, and those are good things. And I think there's merit there, but to grow just for growth's sake, it's not really that important. You got to figure out
Yeah.
why you want to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's such a great answer. And thank you for recommending that book. It's, I think it's one of the biggest struggles that people have in this
Mm-hmm.
social media
Yes.
age is their expectation of their standard of life comes from what other people are doing. Like
Yes.
they want the car that other people are driving and
Mm-hmm.
sharing on the social media. Like it's something you have to know. Like, is that
Right.
something that you really want? Like the answer that you gave like a couple of years ago, you said, "Oh, I want 101." But like, do you really like what would you do with that? Like, are you willing to make other sacrifices in your life? So
Yeah.
again, like going back to what we were talking about earlier, money is not important for everyone. Like, yes, you need a
Yeah.
certain, standard of living, but beyond that, like you got to figure out what is more important, time or money.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you for that great answer.
Absolutely.
All right. If you could spend a day with anyone, dead
Hmm.
or alive, who would you want to spend the day with and why?
Man, golly, that's a good question. There's a lot of people.
You can
I'm
name
gonna
more
put,
than one if you're struggling with that.
yeah. Hmm. If we could go back and like, if yeah, go back in history, I probably want to spend some more time with my dad. We did not have a wonderful relationship, but if I could go back and kind of have that conversation with him now and say, "Hey, you know, probe into why he did some things that he did and just maybe,
Right.
get some answers there." I think that would be one. Um, but yeah, I'm trying to think. Gosh, there's a ton of people, I'm a history guy. So just going back to try to figure out, why they did what they did.
Right.
Um, but yeah, so no answer off the top of my head other than just maybe reconnected with my father a little bit.
Yeah. No, that's a great answer, man. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
All right, Thomas, if someone wants to connect with you, learn more about your journey and what you're doing, what's the best way for them to do that?
It's always on social media. I mean, our company is Chattanooga Property Solutions. We're pretty much all over the internet, hopefully, and we've got a Facebook, Instagram. Thomas DeMoss. It's my Facebook and Instagram. So yeah, hit me up.
Cool. Perfect. We'll put in links to all of that in the show notes.
Okay.
Thomas, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Yeah,
It's been
I've enjoyed it. I
absolutely
appreciate
incredible.
it.
Thank you so much. Thanks.